Before we start, this video is sponsored by Moon Milk, a healthy spice mix containing ashwagandha, which will improve your sleep, focus, and overall mental and physical well-being. So in this video, I'll use ChatGPT to do thematic analysis for us again, but this time I want to stress or focus more on within case and cross case analysis, or within case and cross case comparisons, which are basically something that we do in thematic analysis and qualitative analysis, which means first we're looking within the case, so within each participant, and then we're starting to compare across cases to get some additional insight. So I'm using ChatGPT Plus, which gives me access to ChatGPT-4, which gives me access to advanced data analysis option in ChatGPT. So basically, what is it? Briefly, I'll have a separate video in which I explain differences. You don't have to use it, so you can still watch the video if you don't have the paid version. And also, this is not a paid ad or anything like that. The reason I'm using ChatGPT Plus, which is a paid version of ChatGPT, is that specifically it gives me access to this little option to attach files, and I absolutely love it. So you don't have to copy and paste all the text. You can attach files, you can upload files directly into ChatGPT, which I think is brilliant. And also it gives me access to some new functionalities they are testing, such as advanced data analysis, which I think is going to be pretty useful. So as I said, you don't have to use it. You can still use the same one, except that you'll be pasting the text into ChatGPT as you normally do. And of course, there's some word limit, so you have to be careful. But it's possible to achieve that with normal ChatGPT as well. So for this video, for this hypothetical study, we're looking at interviews with leaders, female leaders, male leaders. We're interested to find out about their leadership styles, what challenges they face, and how they overcome these challenges. This is a kind of a hypothetical study we're conducting for this video. So first, I'll upload the files. As I mentioned, that's what I'm using. I have interviews that were developed by ChatGPT, by the way, example interview transcripts with leaders. Importantly, what I did in the interviews, as you can see, I indicated within the file, indicated whether it's a male or female and how old they are. So that's the idea. I want ChatGPT to understand this or any other demographic information. You can only imagine how much interesting stuff you can include there if you're doing a study, let's say comparing teachers and students, nurses and doctors, or whatever else. For me, this was the idea: female, 49 years old, and I indicated this kind of information in each of the transcripts. If you're using the normal standard version of ChatGPT, you can just indicate that in brackets at the beginning of your transcript and just paste it into ChatGPT. In any case, whatever version we're using, my prompt is as follows. So I said I attached 4 interview transcripts with male and female leaders. In these transcripts, they talk about their leadership style, so I'm basically explaining what they talk about. I would like you to analyze these transcripts and list what we can say on each of these topics for each of these transcripts. So I'm being specific. I wanted to do it for each transcript, not for all of the transcripts together. If you're not using this ChatGPT Plus, you're just doing the same, but just attaching one transcript and explaining that you attached one transcript. It's for example, interview with female leader, and again explaining what you wanted to do. So that's and then we just get started. So once I press this button, what happens is first analyzing the transcript. That's what it does. It's working on the transcript. It's a little bit different from normal ChatGPT, so it's kind of taking us through everything that it's doing. And as you can see, it's doing a pretty decent job at talking about leadership styles, challenges and strategies, giving us some findings that it has. Then it continues to kind of think and work, and now it's talking about is basically being a little bit more detailed now. As you can see, leadership style, challenges, strategies, and even advice for aspiring leaders, which is not something I asked for, but I think it's great. So, and now it's moving on to the next one. So it's breaking each one down, and it's taken each one by one, as I said. So this is basically our within case analysis taking place at the moment. Now, eventually that is done. As you can see, it's done every transcript separately. We have male interview, we have female interviews. Everything is kind of broken down for us. One point that I didn't make and I forgot to make is the reason this prompt is the way it is. I always encourage you to experiment with different prompts and experiment with different wording, and also ChatGPT can be completely different on 2 different days. So it completely blew my mind last week when I found this, especially this advanced data analysis option. But then the next day it let me down. I couldn't get it to work. It was just going mental and it couldn't do anything for me. So I kind of worked on simplifying my instructions as well. What I found is that if you insist too much on it being a structured qualitative data analysis, it goes into detail of all the coding and it tries to make it proper data analysis, which often I feel like results in it basically overwhelming itself and breaking down. So I decided that it's actually better to use this kind of common sense language saying, tell me, I would like you to analyze these transcripts and list what they say on these topics. So I still use the word analysis, but I'm not saying give me thematic analysis, give me qualitative analysis, because it draws from online resources. If I tell it to do a thematic analysis, it's gonna try to make it right and do all the codes and everything, all the stages. It's just working on all of that. There's lines and lines of text, and eventually it just shuts down. So I decided to keep it simple. If you want to see codes, if you want to see all of that, then I do have separate videos in which I go through these stages separately. So I feel like it's a good idea to break the process down into these stages, maybe to start with initial coding, then maybe follow with some other coding. But if you just say, do everything and do the coding and give me the themes, I think it's too much. But that's just a theory. I'll keep working on it, obviously, and you tell me how it works or doesn't work for you as well. But for now, we can see that it's done, like I said, a decent job at giving us this kind of information. So what I want to do next, however, is that now, having had this insight into individual participants, let's look at building a common thematic framework, because that's usually the goal. I want to have a common thematic framework for all of them, not just for individual participants. So what I will do next is I'll just give it this prompt saying, great, can you now please develop a common thematic framework that would combine these 4 separate frameworks? And it will, and I know it will if it's having a good day. If it's not having a good day, we would be nowhere near where we are now. But you can see that it's giving me a common framework this time with leadership styles, challenges faced, organizational challenges. So it's pretty good. There is a lot of detail that I omitted, but if you read all the stuff that it's giving us, it's actually going in the whole process. It's kind of analyzing and sometimes commenting on some differences even between genders and ages. So it's pretty good actually. But what do we want now is to specify that we want it to also reflect or give us some insights about genders and ages specifically. And for this, we'll use the following prompt. So just keep it simple. Is there anything we can say specifically about differences related to gender and or age? And again, it's working, and you can see that it's now talking about the different themes, the individual themes, and commenting on what females said, what males said, leadership styles. So let's see if it's actually mentioning men. I think it probably is somewhere, but you can see basically what it is. If it's not, then you can kind of remind it to focus on men and tell you more about men. But it's definitely talking about older leaders, combined gender and age insight. So it's definitely pretty good. It's definitely pretty good. And if it's not the final product of what, hopefully it's not, of what you want to achieve, then at least it gives you a very strong foundation for some further investigations potentially. What is also important to mention, and it can be a good thing or a bad thing, is that it can be pretty random. It can be pretty random. Sometimes it does a very good job, sometimes obviously a very poor job. Sometimes it also does a very good job, but in a different way. So if you look here, for example, let me just quickly show you. This is what it did just a few minutes ago. Same data and the same prompt, and this is how it reflected on these differences. So I like this one more, for example, than the one that we just saw. it was a little bit more specific about the comparisons between gender and age. So you can just ask it to do it again and again and again. It will just keep doing these things. Like I said, it can definitely give us some very interesting insights, but you can never and you should never fully rely on it. I wouldn't obviously rely on it, to do your whole thesis for you, but it can be a very good tool in many, many ways. So this is it. I hope you learned something new. Let me know in the comments if you have learned something new, if maybe you have any questions, if you want me to explore any specific options or any specific aspects of data analysis using ChatGPT. I'm always happy to respond. Also, like the video if you learned something new and enjoyed it, and consider sharing if you know somebody who can benefit from this kind of instruction.